Singapore is known to be one of the world's richest countries per capita. I mean, we got featured on Crazy Rich Asians for a reason. But how rich is the average Singaporean really? And are you actually ahead of the curve without knowing it? What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be answering a perennial question on Singapore Reddit, making use of a tool that bankers have been using for ages. But before we jump into this video, I am not a financial advisor. All I can do is make assumptions and model projections, just like any banker would do. So without the way, let's jump right into it. So right over here, you can see that we have our net worth planner. You can actually get this in the link down in the description below if you're serious about projecting your future wealth and checking that you are on target. And over here, we have our inputs page where we will be making several assumptions. First of all, we will assume that this person is a guy because guys are delayed by 2 years in entering the workforce. We have assumed an entry into workforce age of 24 years old. We're also assuming that he has zero savings to start with and a starting take-home salary of 3,500 a month. Now this is take-home after CPF and after tax. That is around median for the local uni graduate. On top of that, we're going to assume that he gets a 4% yearly increment every year, and if he gets promoted or switches jobs, he's going to get a 20% increment if that actually occurs. We also have assumed a savings rate of 35%, which according to my research is actually pretty close to what is reported in surveys done in Singapore. We're also going to be assuming a return on savings of 4%, based on the 4% rule. Now this could be a mix of, say, S&P 500 as well as some cash stuck in a high yield savings account, maybe something like UOB1 or OCBC 360. So all of this is actually looking quite conservative. We're also going to assume that this guy is fortunate enough to get a promotion in year 2 of work, another one in year 5, perhaps to say an AVP position, and in year 8 where he gets promoted to his terminal position of VP. Once we have made all of these assumptions, we can then jump over into the model output itself. So this guy is going to start off at 24, making $42,000 take home. Based on the savings rate of 35%, his annual expenses are about 2+ K a month in SGD. This means that at the end of his first year in work, he has only saved slightly over 10K. And if this sounds similar to what you have been saving, there's a reason not to be discouraged, as we will find out a bit later. The reason for this is this: if this person were to scale their annual expenses at the same rate of growth as their take home, i.e. they're keeping lifestyle inflation in check while they're also living a bit, then having 100K by 30 is not actually that difficult indeed. In fact, this person will have amassed 151K by the age of 30. And bear in mind that this is a very conservative estimate because it doesn't take into account wealth in CPF, and this also doesn't take into account the possible BTO, which for all of you non-Singaporeans out there is a subsidized form of public housing where people are able to exit with 6 figures of profits after their minimum occupation period. If this person were to continue his journey based on all of these assumptions, you can also see that the passive income that he's receiving from his investments, perhaps they might be from dividends or they might be from capital gains, is actually increasing quite a bit, and by the time he's 30, it is actually paying out about $400 to $500 a month, which is pretty decent indeed, and adding around a 5% extra to his take home. And this actually gets even better. By the time the guy is about 40 years old, the average Singaporean who has just been practicing financial discipline can pretty comfortably exceed the 500K net worth mark. And this will actually allow him to generate a passive income, perhaps off of dividends or bank interest, of close to 2,000 Singapore dollars per month. At 40, if he's still single and keeping his expenses low, he could theoretically consider going to nearby ASEAN countries where the cost of living is much lower and going barista fire on that amount per month. So pretty interesting, isn't it? Based on all of our assumptions, this theoretical guy who starts off as a relatively average Joe become a millionaire if he continues to work and save until the age of 45. But do note, of course, that all of these are based on these assumptions over here. These assumptions could change, especially in terms of the savings rate as well as the possibility of getting a promotion. At the end of the day, everyone is going to have different expenses. We have to remember that there are people from less privileged backgrounds that are going to have to take care of dependents, such as aging parents, or maybe they're the sole breadwinner and the first generation graduate in the house. But overall, it does seem that the picture is quite rosy for the average Singaporean if they were to do a few things. Which brings me on to the lessons that we can learn from this whole exercise. The main lesson here is that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Ultimately, the hypothetical guy in our scenario, when he's below the age of 30, has less than 100k in the bank for most of that duration. This might seem discouraging because even 100k is barely enough to pay a down payment on one of those hyped up new launch condos these days. Nonetheless, however, by staying the course, keeping expenses in check, and continuing to invest in even relatively conservative instruments, he's able to build up quite a good nest egg by his 40s. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Do leave a thought in the comments down below. Once again, if you're interested in making use of this tool to monitor the progress of your own financial journey, then you're going to want to click the link down in the description. Hopefully you found this video informative and interesting. If you did, do leave a like and consider subscribing to this channel. With all that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.